This is the Ever Vigilant podcast. I'm back. No excuses for being away so long, but it's time to move forward and make some more podcasts. This podcast, we're going to take a break from the open concept. I'm waiting for a book to arrive that I wanted to reference back to. It's a book called Crucial Conversations, written by Carrie Patterson. I listened to it a few years back on audiobook, and I wanted to get a copy of it so that I can more easily reference back to a few points that I wanted to make. So we'll take a break from the open concept. So we are going to go in a different direction this podcast. I'm going to talk about this last year, the year 2016, some of the projects, some of the stuff that went on here on the Homestead, and also review some gear that I purchased this last year that I think is worth a look and worth the money. We'll get into first what went on the Homestead. And you know, as the year goes by, sometimes you don't realize all the things that you've done or all the things that you've accomplished. And that definitely happened as I started to jot down some of the things that we did this last year. So one of the first things we did this last year was plant a bunch of trees. Early spring, after the last threat of a freeze, we went out and planted a bunch of bare root trees. We planted, I believe, over 100 trees and shrubs. We planted chestnuts, persimmons, apples, honeyberries, cherry plums, some peach trees, pear trees, pawpaw trees, and black locust. And most of that was all purchased from New Farm Supply, which I'll give a shout out to. The products were shipped nicely. We received them all in good shape. Almost all of the trees took root and grew very well. So a big shout out to New Farm Supply. You really couldn't beat their prices, and the product was very, very good. We added chickens to our little operation here. We raised probably 30 broilers last year. Probably about 15 of them got eaten by a weasel, but the other 15 we were able to butcher and put in our freezer. So that was something completely new, something different, a new experience, raising an animal to a point to butcher it and then put it in the smoker and in the oven to eat for dinner. It's a new experience. And then right now we have 5 hens that are laying eggs, and laying eggs very consistently, especially for being wintertime. And so between our chickens and our ducks, I think our record day, we have 5 ducks also. We have silver apple yards, which were added. So we're averaging probably about 5 eggs a day between the five ducks and the 5 hens. For being wintertime, I think that's pretty good. That's way more eggs than we need on a daily basis. So we added those ducks, the silver apple yards. Right now, the hens that we have are black Australorps. Like I said, I really don't think you can beat either of them for their hardiness. This winter's been pretty easy, but we did get down to 17 below at one point in about mid-December, and everything stuck in there and everything survived. So as far as I'm concerned, there's some tough cookies. And then we added goats in probably late-ish summer. We added 4 goats, 2 bucks and 2 does. They're kinder goats. It's supposed to be a very good dairy goat, but also a very good meat goat. Adding goats was a completely new experience, something just like the chickens and ducks. This is all new to us. We're complete noobs in this kind of micro farming thing. But so far, it's been good experiences. You kind of roll with the punches and figure things out as you go along. And then on top of the animals and all the trees, we planted the garden. The garden was not a success this last year, but that was our first year here, our first year with the garden. I think we'll change things up a little bit this next year. We probably should have been done a better job at keeping it cleaned up and keeping it watered. This year, now that we'll have a little greenhouse to get things started in, I think that will put us in a better position to a lot of the seedlings had a rough start, and that kind of put us behind on everything. We ended up having a late frost that was maybe a week after what they suggest is the latest freeze date, and that almost killed off most of the persimmon trees and certainly didn't help us in the garden. And other projects we did around here, we built a wood shed to keep the firewood dry during the winter and out of the snow, and we built a shed just kind of for outdoor storage stuff. And then I built a Texas Prepper greenhouse, which I'd highly recommend. He has a book on Kindle, but he also has a lot of videos on YouTube. Texas Prepper greenhouse, just Google that and you'll find him. But it's a very simple greenhouse that you build with cattle panels, and you bend them over to make an arch. And what I did was I built it in the fall and wrapped it in a big tarp, and I was able to use it then for storage of the hay for the goats for the winter. I was able to fit 40 bales in there. Maybe you could squeeze a few more in, but you're probably between 40 and 45 bales would be your max that you could squeeze into there. But it's worked out great. And then early spring, I'll take that tarp off of there and put the greenhouse plastic over it, and we'll get the seedlings started in there. So we'll see how that transition works and what the goats are still eating at that time. We've barely gone through half of our hay supply for the winter, so I think we're kind of right on track for just about emptying that out at the same time as we're ready to start filling it up with seedlings. So that so far has worked out really well. So that's kind of a quick synopsis. We painted the house, did miscellaneous things inside the house, but for the outside, for the new homestead, our first full year here, those were kind of the big points that we did, adding all the trees, bushes, shrubs, and plants. We planted asparagus. There's a lot of things that we kind of planted and played around with. And then adding animals, a lot of animals. So far, the experience of that has been great. You know, there's a lot to be said for having a relationship with the food that you're going to eat, and that's going to supply for you and your family. And so far, although that's a very new experience for us, it's been a very, very good experience for us. So the next thing I wanted to hit on was a few pieces of gear, a few pieces of kit, as they call it, that I acquired this last year that have gone above and beyond my expectations. I'm very, very happy with them. You know, I don't spend a lot of money on gear, and I don't spend a lot on money on things that kind of just get tossed to the back of the drawer or end up, you know, on the bottom of a pile somewhere. I try to be very strategic about the things that I buy and where my money goes, and I don't mind spending some extra money to buy something that's handcrafted, built correctly with somebody's actual reputation on the line due to the craftsmanship in it. The first thing I'll talk about then is my EDC everyday carry belt that I purchased from Storm Rider Gear, and you can find their stuff at stormridergear.com. I purchased their Underlord belt. Here's their description of the Underlord belt, and then I'll get into my description. The Underlord belt is crafted and utilized in the same fashion as the Warlord, a ridged, low-profile, everyday belt designed for concealed carry, but also serves as an underbelt to the Overlord. The 1-inch loop accent material on the outside allows the operator to ditch his concealed carry equipment if need be and connect the Overlord for a secure, more direct action. So what that's describing is on this heavy-duty belt that's almost a quarter of an inch thick, but still very, very flexible. And you can pick the color of the material of your base. And then on the outside of that, there's a band of Velcro. And you can also pick a contrasting color for the Velcro. They have a lot of options. And then you can buy a overbelt, which they call the Overlord, which is more of a tactical battle belt that will then sit around your waist and be held on by the Velcro on this everyday belt. I don't have the Overlord. I just have this Underlord. Maybe at some point I will purchase the Overlord to match the two together. If I were to purchase a battle belt, I would definitely go that direction. But as an everyday belt, as a concealed carry belt, you really can't beat this thing. I've been wearing it every day now for at least 6 months, and there is, as I'm looking at it right now, there is not a bad stitch on it. It's solid. They're all crafted and sewn by a woman named Jenny Hunter. I really can't say enough about it. This is really, really top quality gear, made in the United States by a small company, small business. You really, really can't go wrong, I don't think. From what I'm seeing, from what I received from them, you could not go wrong with purchasing this. And for less than $50 for a top quality everyday belt or concealed carry belt, I don't really feel that you can beat that for the price. Another good company for belts is Lenwood.com, Lenwood Leather. I purchased a leather belt from them earlier in the year. Again, top quality, top notch, small business, American made, very good craftsmanship. I don't wear that every day just because it puts the buckle in the front being a leather belt, and I don't usually wear a belt with a belt buckle. So I go with the more streamlined Storm Rider belt, and I'm really, really happy with that. And then I match that up with my holster that I purchased this year, which was made by Trex-arms, which is TREX-ARMS.com. They have a holster called the Sidecar. It's an appendix rig. It's appendix carry, but it also has built-in magazine carrier. That's why it's called a Sidecar. Check it out. Here's their description of it. I'm really happy with it. Sidecar is a dedicated appendix holster that features a built-in magazine carrier. Carrying an extra magazine in appendix position can help balance the weight of the firearm and distribute the bulge that can sometimes occur carrying appendix. But the most important benefit is actually having an extra magazine at your disposal, something we believe is a prudent necessity when carrying a firearm. Our MKV, the latest version, is an all-in-one design. The magazine carrier is canted slightly for increased comfort and easier access due to natural body mechanics. Next, the trigger guard are 2 holes. These holes are used to attach one of our Raptor claws. The claw pulls the firearm grip closer to the body for easier concealment. One Raptor claw is provided for every sidecar. It can be used or removed based on preference. This, again, is a Kydex holster. It's something that I use consistently. That's my go-to carry holster. Again, I mean, quality work. This is not just your simple guy in the basement throwing together a simple holster. This is very, very well done, very intricately done. It's all custom made to your gun, to that magazine. They can even do them for guns with your handguns with lights. It's a nice piece of kit. I'm very, very impressed with it. There are a few rough spots, you know, being a guy who plays around with Kydex myself, a few rough spots in the fit and finish. But really, for what it is, for being a piece of kit to carry around a tool, it's an exceptionally well designed piece of kit. I'm very, very happy with it, and it's not a cheap holster. Very, very easy to find something that would cost half the price. But I don't think you're going to be happy with it. It's very comfortable to wear in and out of the vehicle. It does a great job of concealing. it's very, very difficult to notice, even for myself, before I go out, making sure that everything's set, everything's comfortable, take a quick look in the mirror to make sure that things aren't visible, and they're not. Going out with the family, it's not something that's noticeable to anybody, including my family. So I highly recommend it. Again, it comes in a lot of different colors. Just like the belt, there's a decent lead time on it because these are small businesses that are, trying to do an exceptional job on the products that they're producing, but very, very, very high quality. This thing will last a very long time, if not forever. So that's another piece of kit that I'm very, very pleased with that I purchased this year. Another thing that I got for Christmas, so I don't really have as much time with it. Maybe I'll bring this up or mention it again in a future podcast, just kind of as time goes by, is a knife that I received for Christmas. It's the Browning Black Label Vanquish folding tactical knife. It's a very nice knife. I was looking for something that could be easily deployed in an emergency situation. Either can't carry or it's not easy to get to your weapon. I think it's prudent to have something for backup, and a blade serves as a good backup. This knife, as I'm looking at it right here, has almost like I guess it is like a karambit hoop on the one end. So it's very easy to pull this folder out. But this knife also has a unique a flipper blade. So when you deploy this knife and grab it by that karambit hoop, it's got just it's like a little nub that sticks out the bottom of the knife opposite of the loop. As you draw this out of your pocket, you press that part of the knife, that nub, into the side of your pocket as you deploy it, and it opens the knife. And it deploys very, very nicely. It's a very, very smooth action. I kind of play around with it just to practice deploying it on a regular basis, and there's a little bit of a trick to it and a little bit of getting used to it, but overall, I'm so far very, very pleased with it. It feels quality, and this is not expensive. This is only $30 on Amazon right now. The blade's all nicely centered up. I'm very happy with it. It does have that karambit loop at the top, so it's not as concealable, especially if you were not to tuck in your shirt and you kind of need to wear it high up in your pocket, closer to the center of your person, in order to be able to deploy it quickly and correctly. So I don't know if for everybody it would be an option, just because the karambit loop does stick out and is kind of obvious that you have something odd in your pocket. But if you don't tuck in your shirt, or you're in an environment where that's more acceptable, or something that you don't need to worry about somebody noticing, I think it's a great everyday carry knife for whatever you might need it, or for the emergency where you may need to deploy it for self-defense. Browning makes this knife, and they do have some good videos on YouTube on how to deploy this knife safely, because you want to make sure that your fingers are out of the way as the knife opens. Again, a nice G2 handle, a lot of good jimping on the backside of the blade, and good jimping around on the karambit hoop. Like I said, I haven't had this knife for a very long time. We'll see how well it holds an edge. It came sharp so far. I've had it about a month. I'm very, very pleased with it. So I would definitely say check it out. It's got very good reviews on Amazon. Another Christmas present that I received that so far I like a lot, but again, I don't have as much time testing it and using it on a daily basis as I do with that holster or with the belts. But I'm very happy so far with this. It's ThruNite. It's called a T10. It's a very small flashlight, about this, a little bit longer than my middle finger. They say that it has 252 lumens on its bright, but it only takes one AA battery. I'm very happy with this light. For an everyday carry light, it's got a clip on it, so it sits really deep in your pocket. Right now, you put it in the little pocket watch pocket, and it sinks down in there real nice and deep in the jeans that I wear, and virtually disappears. For a flashlight as bright as it is in this compact of a flashlight, I'm very pleased with it. I don't really have anything negative to say about it so far. It has 3 functions. It has, the Firefly, it has a medium, and then it has that very bright, which they're calling 252 lumens. It does have a lot of very good reviews on Amazon. It's a great little carry light to go along with your concealed carry, I believe. If you're in night conditions or end up in a situation where you need to shed some light on the situation, I would highly recommend this. Just because of its size, it feels awful durable to me. So far, I'm pleased with it. Again, maybe in the future I can give a little bit further or better review, just because I'll have spent more time with it. But so far, because of how the clip works and how deep it sinks into the pocket, it really disappears. It is an extremely bright light, and for the price of $24, I don't really think you can beat it. I'm very pleased with it. Those are a couple pieces of kit that I acquired this last year that I'm very pleased with, that I would highly recommend. At least check them out. The knife and the flashlight are on Amazon, so you can check it out, read some of the reviews, and see what other people think also. The holsters and the belt, if you can search for them online. Google it, Storm Rider gear on the belt and Trex-arms on the holster. Again, they have a decent lead time, so if you're looking for a good holster, looking for a good everyday belt, get that order in so that you can get your product sooner rather than later, because the lead time on the stuff is pretty decent, because again, small businesses trying to crank out a very quality product. So at this point, I think I want to talk a little bit, think about myself as the month of January is almost over, what I want to do, what are kind of the goals for the future here, and both on the homestead and other things that are going on. I really want to get this podcast going. I know that the only way to get better at doing this podcast is to keep doing it, to keep plodding along, to try to bring some interesting content, and at the same time bring some information to people that might not be easy to find, different opinions, different ways to look at things. I've always tended to kind of look at things a little bit different or from a little bit different angle than other people. So if I can share that with you guys, I think that would be a good thing. So I really do want to put a good focus on this podcast this next year and making it work. I'm hoping, we'll see, I'm not making any promises yet, but I'm hoping that I can even throw in some podcasts during the week by recording them on my long commute. I'm kind of playing around a little bit with that. I had to get a new phone. The mic stopped working on my old phone. So there's been a lot of jostling. Believe me, this podcast, it's not something I haven't been thinking about since the last podcast. It's something that I think about every day. So that's one main focus, one real focus I want to do this next year is getting my podcast out there, linking it in a little bit with what we have going on the homestead. Another goal I have for this year is to sell some chickens, maybe sell some eggs. Like I said, we got not too many, but we have a lot of eggs right now, more than we can eat. I'm not looking to make big money on it, but it would be a neat thing right now from where I'm sitting to be making some kind of money off of the homestead. Not going to pay for much, but if we could pay for a little bit of the feed, that would be cool. The other thing that I want to do is probably do at least 100 broiler chickens this year. I think my first batch I'm going to do 50. We'll see if we can sell any of those and how that goes. And then I would like to do a second batch to butcher in the late fall. And I can always change the number on that if we go 25 or go up to 75. That second batch of broilers, and see if we can't create some kind of market here locally for selling pasture raised, no soy, no GMO, 100% organic chickens, and see if we can't raise some kind of market here locally for that. And if not, we'll have a freezer loaded up with a lot of very, very good chickens. I kind of want to see where that goes this year. For me, I'm the type of person that raising the stuff and doing the work is not the difficult part. That's the easy part for me. Learning how to do the marketing and how to get into the market, that will be the trickier, more demanding part on that. So we'll take it one step at a time here. Like everything else we've done, everything's kind of an experiment, as I like to say, and we'll figure it out as we go. But that's one thing I'm kind of another goal that I have for this year. I want to do some more digital stuff too. I would like to do some video reviews on stuff like that holster, the belt, do some video reviews out there. Maybe draw some people in to look at that. That'll bring them to the podcast. Like I said, hopefully I can get this podcast to be better and better. It would be a really neat thing to be able to have some interviews and stuff like that. Another thing I want to focus on is communications. I have a couple of these Baofeng radios. I need to get into them. I need to understand them a little bit better. I need to know what I'm doing and at least become proficient. I would love to get my ham operator's license this year. That would be really neat. I'm having a little bit troubles locally finding a place that halfway close where I can take the test. I can always make a long ride and do the test, but more locally would certainly be nice. Last year I didn't have much luck. It's something I will look into again this year. But even if I don't really get licensed, if I can at least understand the operation of the radios, that will put me in a lot better position to communicate should ham radio become the only option in some sort of emergency. Not only, SHTF situations where that license isn't going to matter, but after a tornado or flooding or something like that, sometimes other communications are down. And if you could be able to use a ham radio even to listen in on what was going on locally and gather information and intel that way, I believe that would be worth every minute that you spent looking into it. So that's something I have on my list to really look into. Another thing is training and practicing. I need to get into a better mindset. I'd like to take a couple of training classes, at least one training class in some kind of defensive pistol shooting. That would be the bottom end of my goal. And I also need to get out to the range a lot more and just keep putting bullets through the rifles and through my carry pistol and just become more proficient and more comfortable. So that's another focus that I want for this next year. I'd love to get the Vigilant sight up and going. I have some ideas for some different Kydex products that I would like to start marketing and selling. So we'll see how that goes. That's another big step for me. My problem right now is there's just not enough time in the day. I'm pushing myself hard to do these things. I got a lot of really good ideas, or I don't know if they're good ideas, but I have a lot of ideas of things that I want to do, and I'm pushing hard to do them, working full time, spending 4 to 5 hours on a commute each day, making sure that I do spend time with my awesome wife and my great kids. And at the same time, I have homestead chores that need to be taken care of. So all these new endeavors need to be jumped into, but at the same time, try to streamline them as much as I possibly can so that they're not taking and using my time. Really trying to put a real focus this year on priorities and prioritizing things. Family's always going to be top of that list, right under God. If family's important, and you're going to say family is important, then it needs to be important. As far as on the homestead, not exactly sure how or where or what, but I know we'll expand our garden somewhat and spend more time in that garden weeding and make sure that it's watered. I'll probably set up some sort of drip watering on a timer so I can just drip water it at night to not have to, again, one more thing where you're streamlining it. It's one less thing to worry about and think about. Just have it on a timer. It's a pretty simple setup. that I'm thinking about right now. I would like to plant a lot of raspberries and blackberries and sea berries this year. I'm going to plant them probably someday. What I'll have to do is put up my permaculture plans online, or a link to it or something in the podcast notes, so that you can kind of see my plan and what I have going on. But through some of the pastures, I have trees in rows, and I would like to plant raspberries and blackberries in between those. So that's one thing I'm thinking. Same with the sea berries. Actually, I'm looking right at sea berries at Mark Shepard's site, which is forestag.com, and I got some sea berries in my cart. I mean, you really can't beat the price. 25 sea berry bushes for $125, $5 a plant. Really don't think you can beat that. That's kind of the plans for that. If I get real adventurous and get the time, I would love to put a pond on the property. Nothing big, probably about 30-foot diameter pond. I know where I want it. If time allows, that's definitely something I would love to tackle this year. That, along with, I think we're going to get some turkeys, kind of play around with some turkeys, something that we can raise for ourselves for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm kind of excited about that. We're still kind of debating and talking about pigs, and if we might get a couple of pigs. And if we do, a big part of the reason for getting those pigs will be to seal up the bottom of that pond. So we're looking at maybe getting a couple of American guinea hogs. It's a smaller pig, more of a homestead type pig. That's another thing. And then my wife is getting tired of looking at the black chickens and wants to get some Americanas. So that'll be kind of interesting when they start laying, to get the green and bluish eggs, the Easter egger chickens. That's kind of our plans animal-wise. But our plans animal-wise last January probably aren't very much what they ended up. So we'll see. We're kind of toying with ideas, take things as they come. At these lists you have at the beginning of the year, a lot of times don't mean much at the end of the year. We'll see. I really think there needs to be checks and balances between your list at the beginning of the year and trying to get things done versus rolling with the punches and taking the opportunities that are given to you, taking a step back or a step forward when time, money, or different situations present themselves. Well, that's kind of it. I'm running out of time here. You can email me with any comments, suggestions, corrections, anything. It'd be nice to hear from you guys. evervigilantpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at @TheEverVigilant. That's just TheEverVigilant, and again, evervigilantpodcast.com. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think on Spreaker, on iTunes, and wherever else you can find this podcast. Thanks for listening, and I will be back soon with the next podcast, which will be on Open Your Mouth section of the Open Concept. Thanks again, guys. Happy New Year. Let's hit it hard. Let's get some stuff done, and let's make a difference this year.